Okay, so you were going to Newark,
Yeah.
right?
So
What happened?
Now, finally we came over to that number of the house, whatever it was, and we came to the house, and we walked in. We rang the bell naturally, and they opened up the door and walked in, and I said that I'm related to that lady that gave me the letter to Mr. So-and-so. I understand he is the manager, the chief of Singer's company. But it was so that he himself wasn't at home at that time, but his family was there. So they didn't know when he's gonna come back to the house. So we were sitting about an hour's time, we were talking about everything. They asked me about what's going on in Russia, his wife, and how things, and about how big is the family where I come from, and I told her everything. So finally, we couldn't wait too long. It's no use to sit and wait. We don't know when he's gonna come. So we said goodbye, and we left the address that he should call me up, so I'll come again and talk to him. So we came back home, and it seems they didn't like the idea that too many of us came over. It seems that they suspected that every one of us wants to have a job, and really none of us was working.
So you didn't go to the factory, you went to his house. You didn't go to the Singer factory.
The house.
Yeah.
Then, so seems that he didn't care to bother with me. He didn't call anymore, and that was the end of it. And I think if I would be more acquainted with the ways how to travel here, and as I had a letter, if I would call myself, surely I would succeed in obtaining a nice job. But because the whole family we were about 10 people, and he didn't like, I suppose, the idea, he never called me. So I forget about it. Meanwhile, there's one of the men that was here already in New York, was here about 2-3 years, and he obtained a job as a woodturner, the same trade that I knew. And he says that there is an opening, a job for you to work right now. And he made up the next morning to take me.
Who is this man again? Where?
A friend of my uncle's family.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So next day or 2 days later, I think, he came over. He took me along to that place. It was like to say a big shop. It wasn't exactly a factory. It was working about 18 or 20 people there, and they're doing some things that belongs to buildings. And I was working on a lathe. So he introduced me to the owner, and he gave me a job and told me to come Monday to work. And my job was $7.50 a week. When I came to work there, I found out that the owner is a Russian, but he accomplished something by having a big shop, and he called in some relatives from his family from Russia, about 7, 8 people, and they were working, and they were speaking Russian, and I was speaking Russian, and the big boss was speaking Russian. That wasn't so.
He wasn't Jewish.
No. That wasn't so good for me because I realize now I could never learn the English language because we converse and we're talking everything in Russian. Not only that, some of them, they never went to school even because their wives used to send them letters to the shop. They send them letters from Russia, and they run over right away with the letters to me. I should read it for them. And so it was, I understand that maybe about after being here a year or a year and a half, I still didn't speak English. Because in the shop all day, I spoke Russian with the people. I came home, I spoke Jewish with the people. The people also wasn't so clear in Russian, in English. So that I wasted about a year and a half. Then I started to go to night school. And working like that for about, let's say about 8 months or a year. After working about a year's time, everything was about all right. And seems the boss didn't make such a good business, so he combined with another company, with a big company, also in the same line. And we all had to go to that new factory to work. In other words, we were working already in a different place, the same line, and after I get through with my day's work, it was from 8 in the morning till 6 in the evening. I had to work those days. Saturday, a half a day. So then when I start to work on the new shop, there was about 70 people working, and was pretty good. I finished my work. I went back home. I had my dinner, and then next day I went to work, and I told to one of the workers there that I have to travel too far from Essex Street, New York, to Brooklyn, somewhere in Manhattan, in Brooklyn somewhere. I had to walk into Manhattan Avenue, and cross with a ferry on the other side, and then I had to walk to the shop. It was quite a lot of way. I couldn't make less than an hour travel. So when I came to work, I spoke with one of the workers there, and one man says, "Come to me. I have a nice apartment. My wife will make for you dinners. You'll make up with her whatever it costs, and you wouldn't have to travel."
At this time you were staying with your uncle still, right?
Yeah. And so Sunday I went over to this address that the man gave me, and I came over. It was I remember the number, 510 Rockaway Avenue. And the missus says, all right, you stay here, here's the room. She showed me the room, nice big room. And she wants $3 a month. And she will wash my laundry. So I accepted. And so one day when I came from work to the new room that I had, I see she put in my room another bed, and there is another boy sleeping, without even asking me. Well, I didn't say nothing, but that way went on day after day, and I didn't have so many acquaintances. I didn't know where to go because I was green yet. So at night, after I had my dinner, I took a book, a Russian book, and I read some literature, histories in Russian. And the missus used to come down, open up the door from my room, and she looked at the gas light. Well, that time was no electric there, it was gas light. And she turned the gas a little bit lower because it cost money, gas, she says. I didn't like the idea, and I told her, you know what, I'll give you 50 cents a month more. Let me have the light in full. So then she was agreed. All right. So that lasted a couple days like that. However, she still couldn't bear it that the light is so in full. So she turned a little bit lower. Well, I saw I couldn't do nothing with her. But I didn't like her for some other reasons. Whenever my brothers would send me letters from Russia, and when I come home, she hands me over the letters, but was open up. She opened the letters. I said to her, you're not supposed to do that. And she says, why are you worrying? We know that you're an honest boy. We know that you don't steal, the way she expressed, horses from the stable. That says, has nothing to do with I'm honest enough, but letters you don't open up. But it didn't do any good. She kept on. Finally, I had to move out. So, and I kept on working in the big shop now. And then one day I come to work in the morning. I see all my fellow workers together that we work there, all of them standing outside of the factory, outside. And I asked them, what is this? And they told me it is a strike. Here the delegates came from the union and take us off. We want to have a raise. So I thought I'll do the way they're doing. They're waiting, I'll wait. Yet I didn't know what means strike, because that was an English word and I wasn't acquainted with the language yet. So finally, around 10 o'clock, 2 delegates came, and they talked with the bosses in the office, and they didn't accomplish yet anything. But the first thing what they did, they took me and another 10 or 15 boys like me. They took to the to the post office court in New York to take out first citizen papers. They had to do that because they want their workers should be legally able to strike and demand things, whatever. And they took us. I didn't know nothing about. So we came to that post office in Brooklyn, and we got the papers. These papers is for 2 years, and then I have to come again after 2 years and take the second papers. And I have to wait then. When I get the second papers, I have to wait exactly 5 years of my being here in the United States. Then I could start to vote. Well, I got the first papers, and I came home, and everything was all right. Meanwhile, the delegates settled the strike with the bosses, and we're getting $5 an increase on our salary. From $7.50, I get $5 a raise. I got $12.50. Okay, I was very happy. And so we start Monday, we start to work there. We work the whole week. Friday, the foreman comes over and tells me in a quiet, whispering way that if you want to keep the job, you give the boss in the office, you'll get your envelope with $12.50, $5 raise, but you bring in the office $5 back. I said, why? It was a raise, a strike, we won. Well, don't ask. That's what it is. If you want to keep this job, all right, you keep the $5, but you couldn't work. They wouldn't keep you. They'll send you away. So I find out that there's many of them like that, maybe about 10, 12, 15 maybe like that. They did it. And the foreman warned us to do that in a quiet way. Don't broadcast. That's what he said. So I went and I brought mine, and I see the other boys brought the $5. And that's what and that's what it is, you see. The union wasn't so strong to find out why you fire a person. Is it because he don't do the work right? Is it because he don't produce enough? No, that wasn't there. So I was getting the same salary. So then a year later, it broke out carpenters union throughout New York, all over. A big strike to work only 8 hours a day, and the raise whatever there is. So we striked like that a week, 2 weeks. Then the union announced us that on the 15th of the month they'll start to give $5 each striker to live on. So when came the 15th of that month, everybody got a receipt for $5, but they haven't got the money yet. But they gave a receipt to everybody. Now, so I took the receipt, and then I started to think I have to look somewhere for a different job, because strike is a strike. I said, as soon as I got the ticket, in the afternoon, we used to come in the headquarters of the union. In the afternoon, came a man and said, want to sell your ticket? I'll give you $3.50. I'll give you right cash. I said, it's $5. The receipt is $5. Why? He says, well, I want to make some. $3.50, I'll give you right away cash. I didn't have any choice what to do. So I gave him the receipt and he gave me $3.50. And other people did the same thing. They got cash. Poor man would come out with a lot of money. The way I understand now, this was done in connection with the chiefs from the union. See, because that was a disgrace, and they knew it. Anyway, I got the $3.50, and I had another man that worked that time in a chemical factory. And he said to me, why you want this business? Come to the factory, chemical factory, you work, and that's steady, and you'll have a good job, you'll make more money than here.
But wasn't there a job that they fired you from? You became shop steward?
That later.
Oh, that was later. Okay.
So I came daytime and asked for a job, and they tell me that all the jobs is taken already, but we need plumbers and carpenters. So I walked away. So next day I come again to the office and I said that I'm a carpenter. So the man says, all right, took my name and said, bring your tools. I didn't have tools. So I got it, something like, I don't remember what, a plane and a saw and a chisel. I came with this. So they hired me. But they sent me in a different department where they manufacturing paint. And this paint is some kind, a very, very expensive paint. It's not paint that you paint a roof or you paint buildings. This paint is used, the way I understand, they use for diplomas or even for dollar bills. It's a government place. You put in a tank of 3,000-gallon tank. I remember you put in 8 inches water, and then you put in some chemicals. One of them was, I remember, paratoluidine, and then another thing, and then then you let the agitator on to mix, and then you have to put in about 10 or 15-gallon muriatic acid, sulfuric acid, all kind of acids. And kept on mixing 24 hours, the agitators. And when it was ready, after the 24 hours, they stopped the agitators and they let it stay for 12 hours, just like that, not working, just like that, till it gets cool off. And then after that, there was a pipe, a hose, big hose, underneath of the tank. And you open up that pipe and you spill it out, the paint, into big pans, and that's way that getting cool, and then they take this away to a mill. This a lot of procedure was that every time they make a batch of this paint, it takes about 4 days till it gets ready. But they put me in a different room where they melting that paint, that raw stuff, that toluene, whatever it is. They put it big pieces in that tank, a steel tank, and underneath of the tank there was gas burners, and a thermometer was on the side of that tank, and they had to boil that material in the tank till 350 temperature. So when it starts to go up the temperature to 200, you have to shut off one light. When it went up more, the second, and when it comes to 350, the temperature was 350. So then he put out all the lights. In that room I was working, and 2 big husky Irishmen. And I don't know why, but one day the chemist came over to that place and asked how's everything. And I told him that we did it the way he instructed us. We shut off one light and a second light, and when it got 350 temperature, shut off all the lights. He says, very good, very good. Then he says to me, you know what, you take charge of this. And the 2 men, they weren't so satisfied, because I, a new man, it made me as to take in charge. Now, so it made me something like, I wouldn't say a foreman, because there was only another 2 men. But I took care. So as soon as this material was ready, we dumped this off from the tank by open up a valve of air in one end of the kettle. And underneath of the kettle, there was another valve that the air, when was pushing it in the tank, the liquid came out from the other valve in big pans, and didn't take long. It gets right away cool. So and that's why we used to do the work. There was another chemical we used to make every week, something else. Another chemical was methylene blue. Those things are we used also muriatic acid and sulfuric acid, and even table salt. Comes in a bag, 100-pound bag, we put in. And when it got ready, we stopped it and leave it stay all night. And next morning, this material becomes so hard, like bricks, like stones, hard. So 2 men used to get in on a separator into the tank and used to chop pieces out, and they took out, and one man was outside, and the other man was hand them over the pail of that hard rock paint, and put that in barrels, and they send it to the next house, where they call it the mill house, the mill that grind it and make powder. And when they made powder, just like flour, they made powder on the floor, all over spread. on the floor. And then when it's spread all over, then they take also a 100-pound barrel of salt and they mix it. I don't know why. And they mix it, then after they mix it, they put it in barrels and they send it to the warehouse. And that was the procedure, day in, day out. I mentioned before that the tank was built so that on one end of the tank, this tank, as I said, had on one end of the tank an opening, that is, you put in a pipe, you screw in a pipe, and the pipe is connected some apparatus from the engine room that gives air, not a vacuum, but air pushes. And this air, and at the other end of the tank is an outlet. You open up the valve, and while the air pushes, so the material, the fluid, comes out on the other side of the tank into the pans. Pans was about a yard square, and there was about 15, 20 pans like that. Now, I had instinctively, I felt that it's a very dangerous place. Why? Because at the time when you open up the valve to let in air inside, somehow from nowhere sparks came out. Sparks like from a match. And I was afraid for an explosion, something. It's very dangerous, chemical in general. So I was thinking about that, to leave, to go away, to quit. I didn't know. So I came to an idea that the gauge that you put in the air into the tank, this should be in the back of the building, of the brick building. In the back should be the pipe that gives the air into the tank. And you could control in the back of the wall the procedure of to empty the tank. Control with a gauge in the back of the wall. With a gauge, you turn in and everything goes out. So in case anything happened, at least it could be an explosion, but nobody could get killed. I wasn't lazy that time, and I by nature from Europe yet, from Russia. I was very good at drawing. And I took a piece of paper and I drew a picture of that tank and the valve and the gauge that you control how much air should go in to push the material out. And that way you would be safe. So I made a picture of it, how this to be done. And I went over, there was right next an engineering department. And I showed to them what I have in mind. And I told them, the sparks come out, it's dangerous, it may be an explosion, but if you control in the back of the building, it wouldn't be so bad. They saw the picture, the engineers there, and they looked at it and they laughed that I made a picture like that. They say to me, all right, Bugoff, we'll see what we can do. And that was the end. I walked away. I had a wonderful job. So this factory, the chemical factory, people work 3 shifts, from 8 in the morning till 4, from 4 to 12 at night, from 12 at night till 8 in the morning. So I was working daytime, and the other people used to come and change the shifts. To make the story short, one day when I come to work, I see there's no house where that thing was. Everything blew off. The tank was busted. The cover of the tank probably weighed about 200 pounds, if not more. Thick. And that lifted up all the way through the roof. And that happened at the time when a man opened up the valve to let in the air. And that time busted. Well, that everything went up in the air, but the man, what happened to the man is this. It tore off his arm with a half a chest. When I came 8 o'clock in the morning, they told, I see the house is ruined, no walls, no roof, nothing. And they told me what happened. And I went, there was a hospital in the yard there. I went to the hospital to see that man. That man's name was Mr. Ring. I remember the name. And he was laying, and he says, you see, Hugo, what happened to me? And I knew that he's gonna die. He's gotta die. It was a pity to look at it. He was laying in the hospital maybe about 4 hours or 5 hours, and he died. 2 days later, we went to the funeral. I went, couple men, and the doctor of chemistry went. We all went to the funeral. We went to the church where they was praying. So that was the end of that factory. I worked in another department there, and I kept on doing the work as every day I did. But the doctor of chemistry came over to me one day, the next week, something like that, and says to me, Bugoff, I want you to be the foreman of the whole place here. It's only there was 400 men. And we'll give you assistant foremen. You'll tell them what to do, is that. And he took my hand, the doctor took my hand and shook my hand and said 3 times, Hugo, we want safety, safety, safety. I remember. I said, all right. So that was the story. Then they one day when I come home, I find a letter. They told me, they asked me to present myself to the board of election.
The draft board, you mean? The draft board?
The draft board, yeah, the draft. They told me to come to the draft board, that's right, for being inducted on this and this day. So I came there, following day I came there, and they examined me, and they say, you're all right, you're fit to be a good soldier, and you're all right. So I said to to the doctor, you know, doctor, I ran away from Russia because I didn't want to be a soldier there. And now you say you want to induct me to be a soldier here? He says, I'll tell you, as one of the two things. Either you become a soldier here or you'll have to go back in Russia to be a soldier, because Russia is our allies. Well, if I have to go to be a soldier, I'd rather stay here. So, and I felt terrible. Well, anyway, I came to work, and I see the doctor chemistry there. He says, how's everything? I says, well, I'll tell you what everything. Everything is all right. Wait, he says, don't tell me what. You know, now the time he's keeping a pencil and a piece of paper. Now the time to go for vacation. When do you want to go for vacation? I said, now look, let me tell you first what I have in mind. And then we'll talk about vacation. He says, all right, what is it? So I says, you know, I received a letter from the board of drafting, and they told me that I should be ready to be enlisted. So he says, oh no, we're gonna do something about that. Oh no, he says, we're gonna do something about that. What happened? The company wrote a letter to the board that they cannot release me because there's no one who take care, because he has already 2 years of experience, and there's no one who take his place. Then they send a letter. Again, I read the letter. Why couldn't a woman take his job? So they answered again, it's impossible. They can't. So what happened? They put me in class F. Class F was that kind of people that was married and had children, and they drafted them. But they put them in class F. That means you have to wait 1 year. Then things will be bad. They'll draft. Then they draft all the married men. So I was free. So that, to make matters short, it passed a year, and the war was ended. It was 1914.
1918 it ended.
14.
It started in 1914.
Yeah. No, yeah, but yeah.
And then the United States joined in 1917, and that ended in 1918.
1914 started, correct, and it ended in 1918, I think. Yeah, it was. Yeah, ended, so I didn't have to go no more. It was such a big holiday in the streets. That time was saloons on every corner, on every block. On each corner was saloons. People used to buy barrels of beer, put on the sidewalk, and people were drinking, and they were so happy. Anyway, now, as the war was ended, the chemical factory reduced the quantity of material that they needed for the war, that where they was producing, where I used to work. So they had a part of it, certain fact in what do you call it, in the I forgot the name of it. So
Buffalo.
when the war ended, they didn't have to produce so much already. So they had a branch in Buffalo, so they combined this Brooklyn with Buffalo. And they asked me if I want to go there. I didn't want to go because I would have to probably. They have there already foremen and whatnot. I would probably have to do the plain work. So I didn't want to go. But now I want to tell you, I forgot something that I did before I went to the hospital. I went back to my online food training, and I went to the office, to the union office, and I said that I'm looking for a job, and they sent me to work in Brooklyn to a place where they working there about 20 people, a wood training. And they start me with $30 a week. And I was doing samples. One day, when I got through 12 o'clock, I went outside for lunch.
How much were you making in this place?
$30.
$30. I didn't know.
When I went out for lunch, and then when I came back, one of my co-workers told me that the boss was looking at my work that I did, and he admired. He said, "It's wonderful, it's great." He takes two different pieces of work and sees that they're perfect. He says, "You know, the only trouble about him, meaning me, he should make it more of it. At this time already, he worked 3 hours, 4 hours, something like that. I should produce more, but otherwise, it's perfect, good. That's good stuff." That was the coworker told me that the boss said. Anyway, kept on doing every 2 weeks they had a meeting in the union about different problems. So one day when we come to the union, the delegate was keep on hammering that we shouldn't work overtime. You people work overtime, then you finish up all the work, then they lay you off, slow. What are you going to gain with that? But if you don't work overtime, you work steady. And don't let me find out that you are working overtime. That was his statement he made. So after the meeting, we went home, and as usually, we come to work every morning in the shop, and we work. And one day, the foreman comes over to me and says, "Bugoff, I want all of you should work 1.5 hour overtime." So I said, "I'm sorry, you can't do that. We have orders not to do overtime." This foreman went and told the boss that the Bugoff is a shop steward. I forgot to tell it. The people in the shop made me as a shop steward. So that's why the foreman came over to me and asked me to work overtime. So I told him no, and he told the boss that I said no. So then, at the end of the week, Saturday, he brought everybody's pay and gives me my pay and tells me, "You don't have to come anymore to work." So I felt so bad about. So Monday, that was Saturday. Monday I went to the union and told the delegate what happened to me. that the foreman asked me to work overtime, and the boss, I said no, and the boss then gave the money everybody and told me also. He gave me the money and told me that you can't come to work no more. So the delegate says, of the union, says, he cannot say that. He'll have to put you back to work. And he goes in front of me to the telephone and calls up the boss and tells him, "Do you fired Bugoff?" So the way I understand, he said yes. So he says, "You have no right to do that. Put him back to work. You can't do that. Put him back to work." So I don't know what happened, but he told him again. Then he says to me, the delegate, "Go ahead, back to work. He'll put you back to work. Don't worry, he'll put you back to work now." So I was glad. I went out and I came over to the shop and I went over to the boss and told him that the delegate told me that you hire me back to work. He says, "Oh no, you can't work here. You cannot work here." And go. So I went again to the delegate to the union, and I come there, but the delegate wasn't in the union. So next day, I come over again, and I told him what had happened. "I know you talked to him. He told him that he can't do that. He has to put me back to work, and you told me to go back." And I went back, and he says still didn't want to take me. He says, "No, you cannot work here." "Oh," he says, "I'm gonna give him something. I'm gonna tell him something," he says, the delegate. Takes a while and says, "Now, are you looking for trouble? Why don't you put him back to work? And I want you to put him right away." And he hangs up on him. And he tells me, "All right, go now. Now he'll take you." So I come back to that boss, and I tell him the delegate said that you're going to take me back to work. He says, "No. I said no, and I wouldn't take you." So I didn't know what to do. It's no use to go to the delegate. So I saw a man that is doing the same work that I'm doing, a wood turner. He says, "In our shop, we need help. Come over." So I came over to that shop, and they took me, and they gave me the job. That job I didn't like it. It's also wood turning, but it does plastic work, and plastic work is so dangerous. When you press the tool too hard, it starts to go smoke, and it lights up. Terrible. I worked all day. I got paid, and I didn't come anymore to work. So
what happened a number of years later?
So then one day, I go from my home. I had to go somewhere, and I passed by.
This is after you had been married, right? Number of years now in the future.
Yeah.
You were living in Brooklyn on 96th Street.
Yeah.
And you were walking by a candy store on Sutter Avenue.
Yeah.
And and 98th Street.
What are you talking?
Okay, I just want to set the scene. Okay, go ahead.
And I was walking on Sutter Avenue. On the corner, there was a big candy store. And for summertime, it was hot. I stepped in to take a glass soda. Who I see there? The owner is the foreman that used to be in the shop where I used to work. He's the owner of the candy store. because I don't know for what reason he left the shop. And he told me, he saw me, he was so glad to see me, and I was glad to see him. And we're talking about that boss and the job and everything. And he said to me, you know, you didn't get a job. You don't know why. I says, I'll tell you. I tell him, I went to the delegate, and delegate sent it to me twice, and twice the boss refused to take me. So I said to me, you know why? Because as soon as you walked out the delegate's office, he called back again, the delegate, the boss, and told him, just throw him out, don't bother with it. Because he used to get graft from the bosses association. He had to show what he could do. He was a terrible figure. If he didn't get some money from the boss association, he called people on strike. And they had to give him some money. So he had to show them that he is a big man, that he could make it, that a worker could not get the job back. So he called the boss, telling him, throw him out. The delegate told the boss. That's why he was so independent. So that was the story with that man. Now I want to tell you something about what happened to me in the first year. And I was very, very excited of getting the job. Not everybody used to get the job right away. They used to walk around weeks and months. I got it maybe the fourth day being here in this country. I got a job.
That was the first job as a wood turner?
Yeah,
Okay.
First job as a wood turner. So I had to be there 8 o'clock to work. It takes about an hour or more than an hour to travel, to come there. So I told my uncle and my aunt that they should wake me up 6 o'clock in the morning so I could dress and shave and go. I went to bed, it was 9 o'clock. I fell asleep about 1 o'clock. I woke up. I see the time 1 o'clock, so I went back to bed. Then about maybe 2 hours later, I woke up again. I see it's already 3:30, 4:45. I fall asleep again. And then finally, I get up for 7 o'clock. I overslept. So in the hurry, I got up and I run. I took with me a sandwich, a bag, in a paper bag, a sandwich. And I go to the train, to the subway train to take me to Brooklyn, in Essex Street Station, at the Lancey Street Station. And when I got in the station there, I give the ticket agent a dollar bill, and the fare was only 5 cents those days. And he gives me 95-cent change. I'm holding my bag sandwich, and I'm holding the 95-cent change, and I run out right to the station, to the platform where the train comes, because I know I was late. I was running. As I came right at the end of on the edge of the platform, and I look in both sides as the trains come, as they don't come, and meanwhile, falls out a quarter from my hand, right down where the rails are running. So I said to the next man, you think I make it time if I'll jump down and take the quarter and the train wouldn't come right away? He said, no, I don't see it. It's so far away, I can't see any train. So I jumped down and I pick up the quarter and I put it in my pocket just like a sport. And I see no trains, so I want to get up on the platform. The platform was all the way to on the level with my shoulders, so high. So what I did, I stepped on there was a third rail, the subway rail, the third one that the train runs on it, the electricity. I stepped on the third rail, and then I still needed something to hold on to get down. So the rails at the end of the platform, the rails, I grab a hold of one of the rail to get on the platform. And as soon as I get on, it started to shake me so hard. And I knew that here I'm finished. I forgot that there's electric and all the thing. I see it start to shake me so hard. And the other man couldn't touch me. He couldn't do nothing to me. He was afraid.